Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Leuchenzee Zoo. My name is thru Games, and in this episode we are going to build the start of the tropical house in the Oceania area that is called Tiki Town, and we will also build the habitat for the koala, which is the first habitat within this tropical house. We will build the outside area, inside area, and the backstage, and let's get started. So, welcome to this episode again, and just a little bit before we start to talk about this episode, the building and the habitat that we are doing in this video. If you have known me before this video, you might have noticed that I have been gone for almost 4 months now, which is quite some time, but I am back. Thank you for staying with me first, and welcome to everyone who is new. I have been gone for multiple reasons, and before we start to talk about the habitat and the building that we are building, I wanted to talk a little bit about what has been going on, a little bit about my personal life, and why I have been gone for such a long time. So there is two main reasons why I haven't made any videos for YouTube in the last months. The very first one is that I switched my job. So I started a new job in mid-January. So that was quite a change in my life. There's no big story why I just changed my job, but this is one main reason why I just couldn't really focus on playing Planet Zoo and making YouTube videos and creating content, because my head just was everywhere else besides in Planet Zoo. So that is one reason. But I'm now set in my job. I am happy in my job, and that's it for now regarding that. And the other reason is very simple, honestly. My inspiration and also motivation for playing Planet Zoo has been extremely low in the last couple of months. The last episode, or the last two episodes before this one, were for the Zeus Community Zoo, and I really loved making these videos, but after that I either had to make a new video in this zoo, in the Leuchenzee Zoo that we are currently in, or another habitat for the Zeus Community Zoo, and I was extremely indecisive on what to do next, and also it felt a little bit repetitive to do something for the Zeus Community Zoo because they are all in this forest area. If you have seen the last episodes, there were the red fox and the wild boar, and they are also all in the forest. And the next habitat would also be something for the forest, and it would have been really repetitive. So that's where the point was, where my inspiration and motivation was really low for the Zeus Community Zoo. And so I started making this building and this habitat for the koala. So actually the footage that you're seeing right now is also I would say 2 months old, maybe a little bit more even. But it took quite a long time to build this because I wasn't really happy with the building at the beginning, and also the habitat. I completely redid the outside aviary for the koala. So what you are seeing right now is the second version that I did. So it took me quite a long time to figure out how I wanted to look. So that was one reason why it took me so long to make the video or produce the content. And then even after I finished it, I wasn't extremely satisfied with what I did. So it took me some time to come back and to proceed building the inside and the backstage area for the koalas. So I came back to this habitat multiple times before it was completely finished. And even then, I wasn't quite sure if this is the end result that I'm happy with and that I want to put out on YouTube. Because if I wanted to rebuild it, I obviously couldn't make a YouTube video if I planned to redo it. So I first had to be sure that the result that I came up with is something that I'm satisfied with enough for it to be put out on the internet and on YouTube. So that was also a reason why it took me so long. And now I came back, I just took a look at it again. I redid some stuff, or not only redid, but also added some more details and changed some things. And I asked multiple people what they think about it, so that I can have more ideas on what to change maybe, or how to improve it. So I was just extremely indecisive, but now I am at a point where I can say, okay, it probably doesn't get any better than this, so I'm gonna put it out on YouTube. And now I'm finally doing like the editing and the voiceover, so the like raw footage of this video has been sitting on my PC for a couple of weeks now. But yeah, now I am here and doing it. In the meantime, because I was so extremely indecisive about the koala habitat, I thought, maybe I just need to do something else. So it's not the Zeus Community Zoo with this forest vibe and not the Oceania area with this tropical vibe. So I came up with the idea to just make something completely different from another section. We would still be in the zoo, but in a different biome section. So I thought maybe if I do something that is completely different from the biome and the building style, maybe then I will be more motivated and I would have more inspiration for it. And I decided to do something for the taiga area. So not the taiga, the animal, but the biome, taiga and tundra, so really like Arctic area maybe. So I did something for that, and I took some time to come up with some inspiration from like Instagram and Pinterest and Google and stuff like that. So I had like a big folder of things there, of ideas on how I want the whole area to look like, and also certain habitats. And I was really happy with the things that I found for my inspiration. Then I came up with a plan for the area with what animals I want to put in there, which animals will be cohabit maybe, and also a layout. And then I started also building the very first habitat, and I was really happy with it. Honestly, it was so much fun doing it. It was just great to come back and just build something and have inspiration and do something that I'm happy with, and I really like the result. But when I finished the outside area, it was next to build the backstage area and the indoor area for the animals, and also the building where everything is in. And that's where I again had a point of no inspiration. I am just struggling a lot with building houses like the tropical house, or any building where such things as backstage areas are in. So mostly with the facade, I struggle to make an interesting facade and to have it look real and just very nice and decorated and stuff like that. So that's again where I got to a point where I couldn't do the building. So I stopped again. This was like a couple of weeks ago, and I of course also watched other creators put videos out there, and every time I watch a video from someone on YouTube building something on Planet Zoo, I always get like the urge to build something, and I have more inspiration then, and obviously also motivation. But to actually go in game and do something is just a completely different thing. But of course I was watching videos and I had ideas, and then I just decided to look at my koala habitat again, which was originally today where I am now recording the voiceover. And I was looking at it, and then I was showing it to someone, and I was adding just a very few more details. And obviously the shell of the building, the facade, is still very raw, so there's just a little detail, there's not that much going on. So it was a little bit also hard to imagine everything when the outer shell is so unfinished. But I was like, okay, I don't think it gets any better than this, so I'm finally going to edit the video. I of course also already had the footage. I only had to do like the cinematic tour at the very beginning and then the cinematic shots for the end of this video. So I did that, and then I decided to make a new logo. So maybe if you have noticed, if you have known me before this video, that my logo is different. So that's basically the reason. I just got really tired of my old logo with the tiger and the color and everything like that. It just wasn't the nicest logo. Obviously, I am not a designer, a graphic designer whatsoever. I didn't pay anyone to do it. I just did it myself, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I just didn't like it anymore. It just wasn't my style, so I decided to come up with something else. And I also tried to use like AI to generate a logo, and honestly it's quite hard because I'm also very picky when it comes to my things. So it just had to be really nice, and just trying different programs and AIs to generate something is honestly really hard, and to make it look like something I want, because I also didn't have like a clear vision of how I want my logo to look like. So I was just playing around with things, and then I came up with the idea of this little cat sleeping on the keyboard, because cats are definitely one of my most favorite animals. I myself have 2 cats and I love them dearly. So I decided, why not use a cat as a logo? Because I like all the animals, but I don't have like one favorite animal, like let's say the koala. But I thought, I love cats and I have cats, and I thought a little cat sleeping on a keyboard would be very cute. It would include animals, one of my most favorite animals. Then also that it is a gaming channel and a logo for a gaming channel. So I thought, why not? And then I came up with the idea of this sleeping cat, and obviously if you draw like something sleeping, you can use like the little Z's, like it is snoring. And I thought, because my name is Zemfira, I thought I can make the cat look like it's snoring ZZZ Zemfira Games. So that's basically the idea that I have with my logo. I just think it's pretty cute. I like the idea. It's just matching with the Z's and my name. And yeah, I personally like it. It's very cute and simple. I like the cats. It's a PC. So what else do I want? And please let me know what you think about my new logo. It took me quite some time making it, even though it's so simple. But firstly, coming up with an idea, and then the logo and the colors and everything like that. And the cat sleeping on the keyboard is AI generated basically, and I took that out and did like the ZZZs and my name, and this little editing, the little animation is also made by me. I know it is really simple, but honestly I have absolutely no idea how to do these things, so I am happy with it. It's made by me, it's self-made, so what else do I want? Now, I think I've spoken enough about what has been going on and why I haven't been on YouTube, and about my little rebranding that I did. Now, finally talking about the habitat that we are currently building and the house that we are building. So my inspiration to start there came from a visit of a zoo that I did last year. And the zoo had also this little tropical house where you would like walk on this little path that was elevated quite a bit above the ground, and underneath there was a lot of foliage, and then there were mostly, I believe, birds in this building. So the birds would like walk underneath you on the ground. They had like some smaller birds that were like living on the ground mostly. Then there were also birds that were flying around and just building their nests somewhere in this building. And then they also had two sloths just climbing around freely in this area. And then there were also a handful of habitats that were in this building but separated from the open, basically. So there was something similar to the sand cat. I'm not quite sure how it is called in English right now, but there was like a small cat species, and there were also some other smaller mammals, and they had these enclosed things. So what I took from this building as an inspiration and idea for my tropical house is basically this main path going through the middle of the building that is elevated quite a bit from the path, and where the animals could just walk underneath there. But I decided to make it a little bit different from the one that I saw, and the main change is that the ground underneath the path is also separated into different areas for the different animals that are going in there. So there will not be cohabit, they just share the same building, but they will be separated from one another. But the path is going through everything, and also through the little barriers separating the animals. Since all of the animals are very small, the barrier wouldn't need to be super high, so it can just be like a meter high or a meter and a half underneath the main path. So all of the animals inside this tropical house will have their indoor area where the path is going over. Then they will all have an outside area. As you have seen, the koala aviary is right at the front next to the main entrance of the building. And the other three habitats will be on one side of this building and will also be, of course, visible from the outside for the guests. And the inside would be always open for the animals, and the outside areas would be closed for the animals during the winter time, because it would be too cold for these animals since they are from Oceania, and the zoo is located in a temperate biome in Europe. So the animals can also be separated, like the koalas can be separated, for example, the males from the females, or one male, because you wouldn't want to have multiple mates in one habitat. So for example, the male could be held in the outside area and the females could be held in the inside area. So you would see koalas on the inside and in the outside. And during the winter, the animals would all be inside, or maybe if one animal would need to be separated, they could be held in the backstage area that you will see at the very end of this video, how I built the backstage. Talking about the outside habitat for the koalas, I firstly thought that the foliage, the plants, should represent the natural habitat of the koala. So those had to be Oceanian plants. But since the zoo is located in Europe, where it is more of a temperate biome, where the winters get pretty cold, definitely colder than in Oceania or Australia, so I made sure to use plants that are from Oceania, and also a lot of the new plants that came with the Oceania pack. So I used those, but only the ones that were also suitable for the temperate biome. And for the inside, I could also use tropical plants that are not only for the temperate biome but also for the tropical biome, because obviously the inside of the tropical house is there to keep the plants and also the animals all nice and cozy and warm throughout the whole year to kind of mimic the natural habitat that they come from. Also wanted to include a lot of eucalyptus, but if you know the eucalyptus plants or trees in the game, you know that they are absolutely ginormous. So there was absolutely no way that I can include eucalyptus trees in this building, which was very sad, because if you think about koalas, the first thing that comes into your mind is eucalyptus, the trees, the like leaves and everything like that, and not being able to use them was such a bummer, honestly. But luckily they have this enrichment item, which is a eucalyptus tree, but it is much smaller than the trees from the normal nature tab. So I could include a little bit of eucalyptus in this habitat with this enrichment item. They cannot really use the item since the staff is not able to access them, just because of the way I designed this habitat. Of course, looking at it just practically, or not practically, but theoretically, the staff should be able to pass everything through the doors. But since the staff cannot pass like doors and walls if they are inside of a habitat, it's just not like usable in game that they use the doors. They can only walk through like walls and stuff like that if they are outside of an habitat. But once they're inside, they also get a traversable area like the animals. So yeah, they can only access the backstage area, so they cannot refill the enrichment item, the eucalyptus feeder, which is one is located in the aviary and one is located on the inside. But sadly, they cannot really use it. I think it is still traversable for them, for the koalas, but they cannot eat on it or from it. Speaking about the traversable area of the koalas, it was so hard to make the habitat mostly traversable for these animals. Those are base game animals, and if you know the game, you know that the traversable area from base game animals is just horrifying. It is so bad at some points. They can walk through the whole habitat, they can walk to the outside area, in the inside area, they can also walk underneath the pathing, and they can also use the rope that is going over the path, so they could technically also climb over the pathing. I got it somehow to make it work, but it was so hard. I was spending so much time just slightly rearranging things like the eucalyptus feeder, the logs that they are climbing on, and also some plants, because some plants are just not traversable for them for whatever reason, and also just the smallest of rock could sometimes block them from accessing an area. So that was quite a challenge, honestly, but I made it work. They can walk over most of the ground, basically. They can climb everything that is climbable and they are supposed to climb. But sadly, the koalas do not climb a lot in game. I don't know why they do it like that, or why they are like programmed to not climb all the time. They are mostly on the ground walking around, and sometimes they are just on the tree or on these climbing logs and just sitting on them. So sadly, they do not climb a lot. I also didn't get a lot of cinematic footage for the very end where they are actually climbing on these things, sadly, but it is just how the game works and we just have to deal with it, I guess. So yeah, and now coming to the inside area, it was also quite tricky to make the backstage area for the staff to access this, because it was somehow on 2 levels. So you had like the entry level, so the staff would come from the main path where the guests are also walking around, and then they go into this little side room. But the habitat itself is lowered, so I kind of had to make a transition between those 2 levels for the staff to go down. And I also really wanted to make it work in game, so that they would actually use this path and go down there and into the habitat. Or not really the habitat, only the backstage area, but you know what I mean. I could have technically hidden a habitat barrier or like entry in like the side of the building, and they would just like walk through the wall and inside there. But I really wanted to find a way to make it as realistic as possible, so that they would use the main path, go into the staff room, and then down into the backstage area. And from there are doors to access the outside aviary and also the inside area. And I kind of made it work. It also looks relatively realistic, I would say, in my opinion. The backstage area is kept really small. It is just the basic necessities for the staff to make or prep the food for the animals, to also have some enrichment items for them. And on the other side of this room, there will be the backstage area of one of the other animals. So they go into this room, and then on the left they have the koalas, and on the right they have the other animals, so they can access 2 habitats from one backstage area. And as I said, I wanted to have all the necessities in this room to prep the area, to store some things, not like a bunch of food that would be stored like somewhere else in like a big storage or something. But here they could prep everything and have everything that they would need to like clean the habitats and to work in them, and also to like cut plants, plant new plants and stuff like that. So that was my idea for this area. And right now you can see what I did for the little barrier between the animals. I just decided to keep it really simple and as natural as possible, to not disturb the view of the animals. And since koalas can climb, I obviously did like a little security on the fence, so that they cannot climb over it. So we are almost at the very end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you loved the way I designed the tropical house and the koala habitat. As I said earlier, there will be 3 more episodes regarding the tropical house and the animals that live in there. So stay tuned to see more. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and if you want to support me. And also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, so you don't miss any videos that are coming up. I hope to see you in my next episode, and until then, bye guys!